the last cry of a dying world. The transmission pulsed through the void, weak but desperate. Please, anyone out there, we are dying. A planetary distress beacon, barely functional. A message screaming into the abyss of space, hoping, praying, someone would hear it. On the edge of known space, the world of Valera 7 was falling. The Vortha Dominion had descended upon it, a brutal, merciless force. They did not conquer. They erased. Cities burned. The sky was black with smoke. Millions had already perished. The remaining survivors had only one hope, the call for help. But no help came. The Galactic Council had already declared Valera 7 a lost cause. The core worlds ignored them. The noble houses refused to intervene. Because to challenge the Vortha was to invite annihilation. Valera 7 was abandoned, left to die. Except, something heard them. Something old. Something feared. Something the galaxy had hoped never to awaken. And when they arrived, everything changed. The silence before the storm. Aboard the Vortha flagship, Warlord Korik leaned forward, studying the battle below. Valera 7 was nearly pacified. Its last defenses were crumbling. Another planet consumed. Another lesson taught. His second-in-command hissed in amusement. No one is foolish enough to oppose us anymore. Korik grinned. Then, every alarm in the ship screamed at once. A presence. No, an invasion. Not from the surface. From the void. Unidentified fleet detected. The warlord's claws tightened. Impossible. The Galactic Council wouldn't dare. No empire had the strength to oppose them. Who would be foolish enough to challenge the Vortha? Then the transmission came. It was not a plea. It was not a request. It was a promise. You harmed those who called for help. You will not leave this place alive. A single name appeared on their scanners. Humanity. And for the first time in history, the Vortha Dominion felt fear. The arrival of monsters. The void ripped open. Tear-like distortions in space howled as unknown vessels breached reality itself. Not sleek. Not elegant. Brutal. Colossal. Unstoppable. Humanity had arrived. And they did not come as diplomats. They did not come as saviors. They came as hunters. Korik's blood froze. I thought they were a myth, his lieutenant whispered. No one had seen humans in battle for centuries. They had vanished into the depths of space after the last galactic war, leaving only ruins and warnings behind. And now, they were back. And they were angry. War unleashed. The first human warship fired. A single shot, and the nearest Vortha dreadnought disappeared. Not exploded. Erased. Like reality itself had forgotten it existed. Panic rippled through the Vortha fleet. Their defenses, designed to crush lesser species, meant nothing. The human fleet moved like predators. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Their ships did not maneuver, they hunted. And when the humans spoke again, it was not a negotiation. We heard their plea. You did not. You let them suffer. We will not. Now run. If you can. And the Vortha ran. But it was already too late. Humanity had already decided their fate. No escape, no mercy. Warlord Korik bared his fangs, his reptilian eyes darting over the chaos unfolding in the void. This was impossible. The Vortha Dominion had ruled the stars for centuries unchallenged. They had crushed fleets, burned worlds, and erased species who dared defy them. And yet here they were. Running. Fleeing from the monsters they had once dismissed as myths. The humans were supposed to be gone. Faded into legend, whispered of in fear by the oldest warlords. And yet here they were. All ships retreat. Break formation. The bridge crew obeyed, but it was pointless. The humans were already there. The moment a Vortha ship jumped to FTL, human interceptors ripped it from hyperspace like a predator sinking its claws into prey. There were no safe corridors. No hyperspace lanes untouched. The humans had come prepared. This wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. Valera's revenge. Below, the survivors of Valera 7 watched in awe. The sky, once filled with Vortha terror, was now dominated by human fury. 4 days their cities had burned. 4 days they had prayed for salvation. And now they witnessed vengeance. A Vortha battlecruiser plummeted, its engines torn apart by human railgun fire. It struck the ground like a dying god, collapsing into the very ruins it had created. The survivors cheered. For the first time they felt something stronger than fear. Hope. And above, their saviors kept hunting. Weapons of a forgotten war. Humanity's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their railguns did not fire slugs. They fired reality-breaking spears that tore through time itself. Their drones were not machines. They were ghosts. Silent, undetectable, slipping into Vortha ships, rewriting their code, overriding their systems. A fleet of 200 Vortha ships had arrived at Valera 7. In minutes only a handful remained. And Korak, one of the galaxy's most feared warlords, was running for his life. "Get us out of here. I don't care where, just go." His navigator tried. But then, the human flagship moved. A single towering monstrosity, bristling with weapons that shouldn't exist. It did not fire. It simply spoke. "You had your chance to run. Now we make an example of you." Korak's blood turned to ice. And then, hell itself was unleashed. The black sun rises. A single pulse erupted from the human flagship. Not a missile. Not a beam. Something worse. A dark sphere expanded outward, swallowing light itself. The moment it touched a Vortha ship, that ship ceased to exist. No explosion. No wreckage. Just nothing. Gone. Deleted from existence as if it had never been there. Korak screamed. "What is that? What are they?" His crew had no answers. Because there were no answers. Only horror. Only a truth the galaxy had long forgotten. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. Waiting for a reason to return. And now, they had won. The last stand of Warlord Korak. Korak's flagship was the last remaining vessel. All around him, his empire's greatest fleet was gone. His warriors, dead. His empire, shattered. And the humans weren't even done. They were just getting started. The human flagship drew closer. A transmission opened. A human figure appeared on the view screen. Not armored. Not hidden. Just calm. Unshaken. You made them beg for help. You burned their homes. You never expected an answer. The human leaned forward. "Well, here we are." And Korak knew. This was not a battle. This was an execution. A futile escape. Korak's claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. His breathing was ragged, his mind racing through every possible way out. There had to be an escape. The Vortha always had an escape. They had conquered 100 species. Burned 1,000 worlds. The Dominion was unmatched. But not today. Not against them. The human flagship loomed closer, a silent harbinger of doom. His navigator's voice was barely a whisper. "Warlord, we're the last ones left." Korak knew. His fleet, his empire's greatest war force, was gone. Not defeated. Erased. And the humans were watching him now. They weren't attacking. They wanted to see what he would do. Like a predator watching its prey squirm. Korak's throat went dry. His mind screamed at him to fight, to die with honor. But survival was all he had ever known. He snarled. "Prepare the hyperdrive. Get us out of here." His crew scrambled to obey. The flagship's engines roared to life. Power surged. A hyperspace window began to form. For a single moment, hope flickered in Korak's chest. Then, denied. The human fleet acted. And Korak's escape was over before it even began. The cage slammed shut. The moment the Vortha flagship attempted to enter hyperspace, it shattered. Not the ship, the jump itself. A wave of distortion rippled across space, slamming the ship back into real space like a god's fist. Every screen flickered. The bridge crew screamed as energy cascaded through the hull. Korak's flagship wasn't going anywhere. The humans had closed the cage. Korak's second-in-command stumbled forward. They have us in a suppression field." Korak already knew. A final, desperate rage flared in his chest. Fire everything. The Vortha flagship let loose its full arsenal. Hundreds of missiles. Plasma lances. Disruptor beams. It was a storm of destruction, enough to tear apart a battlecruiser 10 times over. But the human flagship didn't move. The weapons struck. And nothing happened. The attacks vanished. No shields flickered. No hull burned. As if the ship wasn't even there. And then the humans fired back. The weapon that shouldn't exist. It wasn't a laser. It wasn't a missile. It was something worse. A single, precise shot lanced out from the human flagship. It didn't hit Korak's ship. It hit reality itself. For a moment, space twisted. Time groaned. Light itself bent. And then, the entire left side of Korak's ship vanished. Not exploded. Gone. No fire. No wreckage. Just empty space where half his ship used to be. Korak's mind shattered. What kind of weapon does that? His crew screamed, trying to control the spiraling, half-destroyed flagship. Korak stumbled forward, shaking. This wasn't war. This wasn't combat. This was something else. Something far worse. And the humans weren't finished. The final message. Another transmission came through. The same human commander appeared. Still calm. Still unshaken. You ruled through fear. You thought you were untouchable. And yet here you are. The human leaned forward. Your fleet is gone. Your empire is next. Korik's throat went dry. You can't. The human smiled. We can. And we will. The transmission cut. And the final shot was fired. A single, silent projectile, moving faster than thought. Korik's mind barely had time to register it before. Darkness. His flagship, his pride, was gone. And so was he. The galaxy trembles. The Vortha Dominion was dying. Across the Empire, silence spread like a plague. Entire fleets vanished in moments. Strategic outposts, wiped from existence. Worlds that had stood for centuries fell in hours. The humans had returned. And they weren't stopping. At the Dominion's core, the High Warlords gathered for an emergency council. The Great Chamber, once a place of power, was now filled with fear. Their mightiest warlord, Korik, was gone. His entire fleet, erased. And the enemy was coming. How? One warlord snarled. They were supposed to be extinct. We have no counter to their technology. Another hissed. The supreme warlord, the one being who ruled over the Dominion, stood from his throne. His voice was cold, unshaken. Send everything. Every fleet. Every warrior. If they wish to challenge the Dominion, let them face its full strength. But deep down even he knew the truth. The Dominion had already lost. The death of a war machine. The final battle began at Vortha Prime. It was not a battle. It was annihilation. The Dominion sent everything they had. 50,000 warships. Millions of troops. Planetary defenses that had never been breached. And none of it mattered. The humans arrived. One fleet. One force. And they tore through the Dominion's last hope like it was nothing. The weapons of gods. The galaxy had always known war. They had seen planets burn. They had seen fleets clash. But this was something else. The human fleet did not fire traditional weapons. Their projectiles did not just destroy ships. They rewrote physics. Reality bent where they struck. Entire Vortha warships melted into shadows before they could even fire back. Their most powerful capital ships collapsed inward, folded into singularities where nothing could escape. Their ground defenses simply ceased to exist. And the Dominion's last warriors? They surrendered without firing a shot. The message that ended an era. At last, the supreme warlord stood alone. His empire, gone. His fleets, dust. His warriors, prisoners. And before him the humans waited. Their commander spoke. Come. Cold. Absolute. The Dominion is over. The supreme warlord growled. You wouldn't dare. The human tilted his head. You conquered. You enslaved. You made them beg for mercy. His voice was final. Now it's your turn. A final command was given. A single pulse spread across the Dominion's capital. Not a weapon. A message. One that every surviving Vortha heard. Your warlords are dead. Your fleets are gone. Your rule is over. This is your only warning. Stay in the dark. Because if we ever return, there won't be a second chance. The humans turned. And with that they left. Not as invaders. Not as conquerors. But as something far worse. A nightmare that would never be forgotten. The end. Fire enjoyed this story? Subscribe so you never miss what happens next. Fire.